the more we keep ignoring these tiny things, struggling to sleep, maybe some PMS, maybe some bloating before a period, maybe some bloating after we eat all of the time. Maybe we're kind of like, am I losing more hair than normal or not? Should my ovulation hurt or not? They start to add up. It's not like one day you just wake up and you go, I have all these health issues that I never had before yesterday. And then they just get incredibly worse from there. No, they build up. They start with one and they build up. What do 365 days of hormone imbalances do to you? Well, let's talk about it. And the reason why I want to talk about this is often in my DMs, I will get a lot of women asking, I have to eat out because I was traveling, didn't bring my supplements when I was on a trip, I wasn't perfect with XYZ, I'm pregnant and I can't handle food or can't handle meat right now. How badly am I going to hurt my hormones? All of these things. And my answer to you is not at all. You're not going to hurt them at all. And I hope that is a massive relief to you. Can we also just take a quick second for my plant? You guys, look at how big it is. This thing is thriving. You can't call me a plant killer anymore. Anyways, and I think this is so important because we often feel like we need to be perfect or nothing. And it's not the one meal you had that's going to make or break your health. It's not like you eat blood sugar balance for one meal and now you can expect to have lower A1C and lower fasting insulin and lower glucose. You can't expect to have one balanced blood sugar meal a week and expect to be sleeping better and have better energy. You can't take out one of your, I'm just trying to make things up here. Let's say you use artificial fragrance and you're like, okay, well, I'm going to not wear perfume, but I'm going to keep my candles and my plugins and my Febreze, which everyone keeps correcting how I say that. So I'm really sorry. I just don't know how to say it anymore because everyone said something else. So now I don't know. It's not about one thing making or breaking your health. I have a client that has really painful periods and she needs to do a few things. She needs to bring in some liver support. She needs to bring in some blood sugar balance support. She needs to bring in some drainage support and some anti-inflammatory support. And she said, well, I just want to start with one and see if it makes a difference before I do the rest. But in her case, just doing one, she's not going to notice a difference because she has to build up the vitality of her body together. She has to work on these three different things at the same time because they work together for what's causing her period cramps. And this is us in our day-to-day life. One meal isn't going to make you healthy. One meal isn't going to fix your periods. One meal is also not going to ruin your periods. One meal is not going to ruin your hormones. It doesn't work that way. It's our consistency, our buildup over time of all of these things. And so if you're someone that's like, I constantly will be really strict and do really good for 5 days, and then I'm just off the wagon for 3 weeks, and then I come back, you're not going to see results. You're going to be better off changing one thing, and getting consistent with it, and then stack on the next thing, and then stack on the next thing. And then maybe 5 months from now, you're like, I have now established 6 fabulous habits that are making a massive difference versus trying to change everything and not working. So that's why what you do over time accumulates and makes such a big difference. It's not the random things. It's not just doing one thing and then not noticing a difference and throwing in the towel. It's all the things that you're doing over time. It's the buildup. It's the consistency. So now what does that mean though if we just keep pushing it off and we keep ignoring it and oh, it's too much work. I don't want to do that. What does this look like over time? Okay. I want to share this with you. So constantly ignoring blood sugar balance, constantly being like, it's whatever, it's not for me. I'm not a diabetic yet. I'm not super tired in the afternoon, whatever. Well, we want to get on these things before you go to the doctor because you are pre-diabetic. Okay? And the more we ignore these things, the more we don't pay attention to them, the more we keep letting these things slide under the rug, the bigger the issue becomes. And the bigger your health issue becomes, the more expensive it becomes. And I think that's important to note, because if you don't actually get to the root of why are you tired? Why are we depleted in minerals? Why are we stressed all the time? And you just keep trying to band-aid random supplements. You're like, oh, so-and-so said this helped with their gut, so I'm going to take that. And so-and-so said this helps with their energy, so I'm going to take that. And so-and-so said this. And you end up on spending more money on random supplements than actually figuring out what's causing your issue in the first place. So let's stop ignoring and letting our health issues pile up, and let's figure out what's going on. So as they accumulate, they get worse. Okay. So let's kind of like build this backwards. So let's say, you are not balancing your blood sugar consistently. I'm not saying it's like every couple meals, you're like, I have an off meal. No, I'm saying consistently, you don't balance your blood sugar. And you're getting sharp peaks and valleys, like very sharp spikes, rapidly rising blood sugar. It's staying up for a while. This causes inflammation in the body. So now you are constantly putting your body at a higher rate of inflammation. Okay. And then let's say you've been doing that for however long. Let's say like 3 or 4 months. And then all of a sudden you're like, kind of having a hard time sleeping at night. And then it's fine. I'm going to take melatonin. I'm going to go to the store and get melatonin. I'm not saying do that. I'm just saying like this is a standard thing that happens. So then you start taking melatonin. But then you're waking up groggy in the morning and you're having like really bad nightmares. And so then we have to overdose on the caffeine in the morning. And now with the overdose of the caffeine, it's a lot of stress on our adrenals. We're not getting adequate sleep. We already have a stress on the adrenals from the imbalanced blood sugar. And then a few months of that, you feel like you're just wired all the time. You're really cranky with people all the time. You start getting really PMSy before your period. And then you start getting really bad period cramps. Maybe you're really moody. All of a sudden you're like, I never was anxious, but now I feel like I am anxious all the time. These build up. Okay. So all of these are connected. So the more when we have one thing going on with our health, great. You only have one thing. Let's fix it. Let's fix it before it accumulates and stacks on with all these other things, because it is like a cascade. It's like the waterfall all the way up at the top. Once you start the rocks and the water rolling, they just kind of just go faster and they turn into a massive waterfall. I feel like that was a really bad analogy. I hope you still get the idea. I'm so sorry. That was a bad analogy. But that's why I think it's really important to not brush off your issues. Okay. So if you are feeling really tired in the afternoon, you get that mid-afternoon slump, let's work backwards. Let's figure out what's causing that, because that over time is going to cause another cascade of issues, right? So we just showed how blood sugar imbalances then can lead to sleep, which then puts more stress on the adrenals, which then in turn, because you're not adequately sleeping, is going to cause issues with your hunger hormones, which is maybe going to cause you to overeat, which then we're going to be struggling with losing weight. And everything keeps getting worse as we keep going down this route. So if you say, well, I don't have to really pay attention to my health right now because I have trouble sleeping, but that's really the only thing. And I just drink extra coffee in the morning. That's going to add up, honey. It's going to add up. And the more we keep ignoring these tiny things, struggling to sleep, maybe some PMS, maybe some bloating before a period, maybe some bloating after we eat all of the time. Maybe we're kind of like, am I losing more hair than normal or not? Should my ovulation hurt or not? Spotting before my period. I feel like I'm more moody. They start to add up. It's not like one day you just wake up and you go, I have all these health issues that I never had before yesterday. And then they just get incredibly worse from there. No, they build up. They start with one and they build up. And so I hope this makes you kind of think, and send me a message. Send me a message on Instagram, because you guys always are great at this. Can you just send me I want you to send me the first symptom of your health journey that kind of like made you pay attention to what was going on with your health, and then trace that back to probably the first symptom that started everything, but in that time you didn't really think it was an issue. And I will tell you what mine is, okay? So the thing that made me pay attention to my health is my fibroadenomas, when I got diagnosed with fibroadenomas. And I tell this all the time. It's because breast cancer gallops in my family. I had a fibroadenoma the size of a golf ball. So that really freaked me out. That is what threw me into, you need to figure out what's going on with your health and you need to fix it. But if I trace back, the first thing that really should have been my red flag was acne. I had acne all over my forehead and all over my jawline. I had scarring like all on my jawline for the longest time from acne. And that should have been my first red flag. Should have been my first one, but I was like, oh, it's just hormonal acne, like whatever. And then the next one should have been, I have really painful periods. And then the next one should have been like, oh, I have really irregular periods. So now not only were they really painful, they were really irregular. And then the next one, why am I so tired all the time? Why am I sleeping 10 hours at night and I'm exhausted? And then the next one, why do I have so much bloating? Why do I have so many digestive issues? Why am I not having regular bowel movements? Why am I pooping one day and then going 2 days not pooping? You see all these issues that started stacking up over time? And then I was diagnosed with fibroadenomas. And then I started paying attention to my health. But that was the stack. Before that, I had acne, I had irregular periods, I had really painful periods, I had bloating, I had digestion, I had fatigue. I was sleeping 10 hours at night, you guys, and I was still exhausted. I had food sensitivities to like pretty much every food sensitivity under the sun I had. And yeah, it took fibroadenomas for me to pay attention. So I know that is the case for a lot of women. I actually get a lot of women in our programs who are engaged because they are all of a sudden faced with, I'm getting married. I want to have kids. Or I want to feel my best on my wedding day. I want to feel my best on my honeymoon. And I have this slew of issues. But sometimes we just aren't ready to make a change with them until we run smack dab into a wall. Like we got engaged and we go, oh, the idea of getting married and having kids is actually like right here at the tips of my fingers. It's not a far away thing that I potentially need to prepare for. And because, then they've been dealing with these issues for years and years and years and years and years, it takes a lot longer to fix them. But if we were actually paying attention to these things when they first became an issue, when it first was just one thing, it would be a lot easier to fix and it would be a lot faster. So the whole point of this is really for you to realize how things build upon each other, because nothing in your body works by itself. Your hormones are chemical messengers. They communicate. If one's off, it's going to affect the other ones at some point. It's going to happen because they all communicate. They all work together. Thyroid affects ovulation. Even though we only think about thyroid in terms of hair loss and metabolism, it affects ovulation. It affects fertility. Cortisol is not just about having a puffy face and stress. Cortisol is also going to impact your period. Cortisol is also going to impact your blood sugar. So they never work independently. And so I think that's important to note, because often you'll say, like, I have painful periods. I want to take one supplement to affect and fix my painful periods. But there's not just one thing, because all of these things work together. Your adrenals are playing a role here. Your blood sugar is playing a role here. Your liver is playing a role here. Everything works together and they all build upon each other. And so when you're dealing with a health issue, you have to like trace it back, and you'll actually probably find more health issues that started before that big one that caught your eye. And I really want you to think about your body working as a whole like that, and realize that it's not one meal. It's not what you do for one day. It's what you're doing over time. That consistency is what makes the biggest difference in your health. whether it's making or breaking it. So if you're constantly pushing it off, I'm going to wait until I'm engaged. Maybe you are one of those people right now. I'm going to wait till I'm engaged. I'm going to wait till I'm trying for kids. I'm going to wait till I see if I have an issue getting pregnant before I'm going to take care of that aspect of my life. I'm going to keep pushing it off till a perfect time until I have more time in my life to focus on my health. We keep pushing it off, and then that means they keep stacking up. They keep getting bigger. And as they get bigger, they get more expensive. And they affect all these other aspects in your body. And that's why, unfortunately, when I have a lot of women that join the Hormone Reset program, and they come and work with us, they never have one symptom. They have like a million. They have fatigue. They have really painful periods. They have really heavy periods. Maybe they have endometriosis they've had for a really long time. Maybe they're dealing with hair loss. Maybe they came to us after they thought they had no other choice and they've gotten a hysterectomy. Can't lose weight no matter what. Wired all the time, really moody, feel like Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde before their period. Like they never just have one symptom. They typically have a ton of them because they've built up over time. And that is one of the magical things that I see with them is that they start to learn how to start regulating their nervous system, also learning how to eat food that nourishes their hormones, to work with them and not against them, but then also learn to let go when they don't have perfect control. Because that's important. If we constantly feel like we need to be 100% all the time, that's stressful. That's just another added stress on your body and your mind. Okay. So I really hope that when you walk away with this, and I'm being completely honest here, I want you to walk away with this knowing that your whole body works together. All of your hormones communicate. So if one thing starts going off and you just forget about it and you're like, whatever, I'm just going to push it off to my next doctor's appointment in 365 days, in 1 year, we're going to forget about it. You're going to have a lot more because they all communicate and they all build upon each other. So the longer we ignore them, the bigger they get, the more expensive they get. But also at the same time, it's not about being perfect. It's about what you are doing consistently over your weeks and your months and your years that are going to impact your health. Not one meal, not one day, not one trip for getting your supplements, one trip not sleeping very well, 1 week where your kids aren't sleeping very well, 1 day where you had an extra cup of coffee. It's over time. And I really want to emphasize that because I want to take that stress away from you of feeling that you need to be perfect all the time. Where you need to really pay attention and address is if you're like, I'm great for a week or 2 weeks or 3 weeks, and then I drop off the face of the earth for 5 months. That's when you go, okay, that's where we need to readdress some things. Maybe we need some more help with the nervous system. Maybe we need to figure out why we keep self-sabotaging, why we keep doing that. Because life will always have things that happen. Life will always be stressful. Life will always throw things at us. That's not going to stop. It's how we handle it. It's how we walk through it. It's how we can shift our nervous system that really makes that difference. Okay. So I hope you walk away with those 2 things. Everything affects everything. I would love to know what your health issue is that made you sit up and pay attention. And please send me that message. And then know that consistency over time, over your weeks and your months is what's going to make the difference. Okay. 1 day is not going to make or break you, honey. I promise.